For more on today's impeachment vote, let's bring in special report anchor Brett Baer. Brett, good morning to you. Thanks for being here to kick things off. As we know, the House convened just a few moments ago. We're told they took a brief recess. We'll see what happens in a few moments. First, they're going to have this rule debate governing the parameters of the actual impeachment debate for later in the day. Just give us an idea of what we're about to see, Brett.
Right, it'll be a couple of hours of debate on the rule. You'll pass the rule, and then you'll get actual debate on the article of impeachment inciting this riot. We're looking probably, Sandra, at 4 o'clock for final passage of impeachment. And they're going to have the votes. I mean, Nancy Pelosi's not going to lose any Democrats. It's not likely. And with Liz Cheney, the House Republican conference chair, with her very strong statement saying that she supports impeachment, and we've seen a few other Republicans announce their intentions, it could, as John mentioned, have 10, 20, maybe even more Republicans join on to impeachment. You know, Liz Cheney, there was no upside politically for her to go out on this limb. She did it in her statement on principle, but by doing that, it kind of opens the door. There is obviously in everything in Washington a political calculation. And when the calculation about being primaried by President Trump or Trump supporters is less than the calculation of losing funding and any support you have for future runs or your political future is greater, then the entire decision changes. So it's not only principle, but there's politics behind all of this as well.
Karl Rove went on with Martha last night, and he had a warning about moving forward with this process, suggesting this will be bad for the country. Listen.
The rush to judgment in the House, the lack of a thoughtful process, and an immediately dump on the United States Senate to fill in the blanks, whether you're in favor of removing the president from office or not. And this is unseemly, and however it goes forward, it's not going to be good for the country.
But still, you've got Mitch McConnell, as we just heard reports. He says he's done and furious with the president and now supports Democrats moving forward with initiating this process. Brett.
Yeah, two sides of this. One is Karl's right. There is not an ample opportunity for the president to defend himself, at least not yet, and a trial seems like it would be rushed in this scenario ahead of him leaving office. So there's concern about the process. But on the political side, there are really angry Republicans about what happened last Wednesday, and the political power of President Trump diminished, if not was devastated by the actions on Capitol Hill. So you have Republicans who are debating whether they go for this punch to try to keep him on the mat, President Trump, or they step back and they let him fade away. The problem for the latter is that some of these Republicans, institutional Republicans, have been trying to have President Trump and Trumpism fade away since he went down the escalator in Trump Tower, and it never happened. So the other side is, if you do this punch and you vote for impeachment, move forward, you could somehow empower him and his political movement after that. So that's what's happening in the minds of Republicans up on Capitol Hill.
And that will be discussed and debated for some time to come, Brett. Meanwhile, there is concern, obviously, just 1 week out now from these riots in the Capitol, that tensions are still very high. And Steve Scalise is writing about that in a new opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal, saying politics has no place for violence. In it, he says it would, however, be naive to think that the shooter, referencing back to his incident in 2017, arrived at his decision in a vacuum. It would be equally naive to think that the Capitol rioters arrived at their decisions in a void. Violent rhetoric helps radicalize people. Elected officials and media personalities have a responsibility to condemn political violence and violent rhetoric across the board, not only when it is politically convenient. And obviously, Brett, I say this and read his words ahead of Inauguration Day. I mean, you just heard reports from Jennifer Griffin, John Roberts, and others about the amount of security that we're now seeing in Washington ahead of that. But does Steve Scalise have a point with that piece?
100%. I mean, taking down the temperature in this country is really the goal, should be the goal of every politician. Because that rhetoric is what is, firing up a lot of the fringe. And let's not pretend that it's just the right fringe. I mean, we've seen fiery rhetoric on the left as well. The decision by the Secretary of the Army to arm the National Guard at that level inside the District of Columbia, don't take that for granted. That is a decision they don't take lightly. And the fact that this level of security is there shows you, as Jennifer was pointing out, the serious threats that they are taking seriously, not only in the nation's capital, but in all 50 state capitals around the country.
Brett, really appreciate you being here with us early this morning. We'll see you tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern. Special report. Brett, thank you.
You bet.